Hello everyone, welcome to my banner review for Desert Mercenaries. Before we start, I do want to point out, again, Show Me Your Build will be next Saturday, in case you didn't know. Typically it will be at the start of the month, the first Saturday of basically each month. The time is typically 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. is where I start. It's around these waters. EST time, of course. Anyway, with that said, let's talk about the banner. Now, usually I typically always go from worst to best and then keep the new 3 to 4 star unit at the end of the banner review. I can't really do this in this case because Garrick and Ross are actually quite comparable to one another and to a very depressing amount, in fact. And so I'll be talking about Gerik and Ross at the same time, since it's the first unit that we have to talk about. So Garak, kit-wise, he's quite blessed. Stat-wise, well, he has fair comparison. That said, having Sudden Panic in the pool is quite welcome, and Fire Sweep Axe is okay. Honestly, the fact that it's locked to 5-star makes the weapon unusable. I'm just going to put it this way. It's a cool weapon on like 3 units. Because reminder, in case you didn't realize this, but high speed like green axe unit are very few and far between. It's almost a ridiculous amount. So Fire Sweep Axe is very iffy to begin with. Like Garrick can use it, Ross can use it, Barst can use it, I suppose, but he's probably going to get a pref that's going to completely overshadow Fire Sweep Axe, considering he has access to triangle attack in his own game. Just overall, it's not great. You can also go speedy with bar tray, but it requires his pref again. With Fury. Really good axe units that can use Fire Sweep Axe are far from common. So locking it behind 5-star is just like asking to make sure that the weapon is useless. Still, like I said, Sudden Panic is quite welcome. Darting Blow is worthless, and Infantry Pulse, if you really want that, just wait for the Dorcas weekly banner with like way better rates. And a color you can go that has less chance of getting pity fisted by. So honestly, outside of Sudden Panic, I would not be summoning for him. But you'll see why once we get to Ross. Now, speaking of Ross, Ross's kit is quite garbage, but his stat line is insane. Keep in mind he has an attack super boon, as well as I think a rest super boon. So there's that. But to add insult to injury, here's the comparison I was talking about. Yeah. Now the thing is, if you go attack plus with Ross, which is probably what you'll go with Garrick, because let's be honest, his bulk is not the main point, then you have 2 less attack, 2 less depth, 2 less res, the same HP, but you have 5 more speed. On high merges, it doesn't matter. If you compare Garrick to Ross, right? And Ross is plus 10, which is very easy to do considering he's in the 3 to 4-star pool. Okay? Ross, with Slaying Axe, Speed Refine, with a buff in speed, you're already at 45 speed. If you add Fury to this, you're at 48 speed, which is more than enough for most encounters, which makes so that Garrick is kind of pointless. The main thing he really has is the fact that his speed is good enough that you don't really need the buff anymore in speed, but that's really minimal in terms of how helpful it is to you. I've put Dragon Flowers here because of Linus, but we'll get to Linus in a bit, because I really want to hammer this point home. The one set Garrick has that Ross can't really run is a Slaying Axe set running a Brazen Attack Res with Wrath and Ruptured Sky, similar to what you typically run on Ira with Distinct Counter. Because you would lose your A skill, you lose 3 speed, which means your speed is a bit inconsistent as a result. But even in that weird case, even if that is a problem, then Linus comes in, and Linus is more attack with a cooldown -1 set. This is why stats really doesn't matter nowadays, okay? If you don't have a pref to demark yourself, this happens. Linus is a Gen 2 unit with 1 more point in attack than Gerik, despite not having a boon in attack. This is because Basilicos has 16 might and a Slaying Axe has 14. And sure, Garrick has 1 more speed, but they basically have the same HP and res, and Linus is a bit more def, except Linus, you already get 6 free copies, okay? Maybe you've killed a copy or 2 for Brazen Attack Speed. Doesn't matter. It's still fairly cheap to +10. 6 copies, my dude. Even if you use 2, you have enough for a free +3. To put it in perspective, this makes the cost to +10 the dude 1.75, 1,750 if you get grails, essentially. It's pretty cheap. Not to mention, Garrick, on the other hand, costs 2,200 orbs to +10, and Ross is fucking free for the most part. So, the one thing I will say about Garrick, however, is that on low merges, he's better than a low merges Ross. But then again, Ross is a 3 to 4 star unit. And by the way, in case you don't know, he's a Gen 3 trainee unit, which alongside Iwan points out the fact that trainee units got a nerf. They only give +4 to stats, which is kinda nice. And that's basically all you need to know. At this point, Ross and Garrick has the same BST, it's just distributed differently. Garrick does not have an attack super boon, whereas Ross has one. So there's that. And then on the other hand, you have Linus, which is basically free. And not to mention, he's not only free, but Basilicos can give him an extra 5 attack and speed, which it basically unlocks another set that neither Ross or Garrick can really use, which is the AoE set. The reason why I say this is because he ends up with at least 4 more attack than Garrick for AoEs, which is one of the things that is more or less unique to Linus. If you use Special Spiral with an AoE, you don't even need to run like Heavy Blade or Flashing Blade. You'll just be proccing AoEs with a base 65 attack and with a buff that's 71 attack. This is without an A slot in mind. So, you get the idea. He hits like a truck, and he's quite great at it. I guess Ross can kinda use this as well, but again, because of life and death in the weapon, he still ends up with 4 more attack than Ross. And 6 more than Garrick. Garrick just doesn't really have anything unique to him, which is a shame, considering out of all the characters on the banner, I'd say Ephraim is probably the one I like the least. But Garrick is the one I like the most, and then followed by Tethys. And knowing that Tethys is so much better than Garrick is kind of fucking strange to me, but that's just me. Anyway, I'm not going to showcase builds with Garrick, because anything that Garrick can do, Linus and Ross can just do better. Hell, Ross can do basically everything Garrick does. And the one thing that Garrick could do that Ross can't do, which is the DC set, Ross can just use a Faithful Axe set to mimic. Obviously, this combos better with Lucina, Brave Lucina that is, but that's just, you get the idea still. Oh, and another thing about Ross is that he combos insanely well with Legendary Eliwood. Keep that in mind. Plus 12 to all stat means you have 73 attack and 48 speed from the get-go. You can even go like Res Refine and be completely fine. It's ridiculous how much versatility this unit has. And while Garrick has some of that versatility, Ross just has a better stat line at +10. That's just what it is. Again, quite a shame. It's a shame for people like Gasts, because, my god, I completely understand why Gast really liked this character, but man, Ross completely outdoes him. So, as I said, this is the Faithful Axe set. The set on the left is to negate debuffs. Faithful Axe gives you 3 across the board if you have an ally next to you. So this is quite good. Essentially, to put it simply, if you have one person next to you, you have 76 attack, okay, 47 speed, okay, actually wait, 3, 3, 7, right, I miscalculated, 79 attack, 47 speed. That's already insane by itself, but my god does it get better. Then you look at the bulk. Due to low attack def, I'm considering low attack def like the -3 as extra stats, of course. Attack res bond 4, that makes that 42-41. Faithful Axe makes that 45-44. Low attack def makes that 48-47. Def res bond makes that 53-52. And you negate attack buffs. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The only thing that becomes really dangerous for this dude is Ophelia, because Ophelia is Ophelia, of course. So yeah. And of course this is more so an arena set, because the set on the right would be better in stuff like AR. Though I will say Libra might be a bit better as far as bulk is concerned for something like AR. It comes down to situation by situation. Again, Faithful Axe with low attack def and attack res bond. This essentially propels his bulk to 36 def, 33 def. Low attack def pushes that to 39, 36. Faithful Axe to 42, 39. And yeah, 42, 39 is honestly not bad. But then you add the buffs. 48. 45. That's insane. Because on top of that, he still has 77 attack. With DC. That's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely insane unit. And the other set is the obvious one. This is more so a set more so based on, you know, what you would run on Ira. This is basically a free-to-play green Ira, if you can get Ruptured Sky on him. And that's just nuts. Full Smoke is essentially the shutdown special, so you can, you know, make full use of your bulk as much as you can. Now the set on the left basically hits 77 attack, 48 speed, does not have any positioning required for it, and still has 46 def and 45 res. Yeah. Now, if you proc Wrath and Ruptured Sky, you typically will get 20 damage per proc, on top of a 77 attack, which is very steep already. You'll be able to one-shot quite a few reds, let alone green and blues with this. And the set on the right is using attack speed 2 to make up for the speed problem that Ross actually runs into. Maybe in the future, if we get something like attack speed solo, this would be a good, you know, alternative. But until then, this is probably the best thing you can really run with. Or you can maybe run just speed plus 3. You do lose the Brazen, however, so having more attack with attack speed 2 feels like it's just par for the course. It's still a very good set. Gonna be honest. So yeah, he's definitely going to be a unit I'm most likely going to get the +10 personally. Just in general, he's such a good unit. And he doesn't score bad in Arena. Like I said, he's a Gen 3 trainee units, so he has 172 BST. After your first merge, this dude scores the same as like 90% of the armored unit. Brave Hector scores the same as this dude. Actually, no, he doesn't, because of the fact that he has a 350 A skill, but still, you get the idea. This is insane. The fact that this is a 3 to 4 star unit shocks me. I think that most people should really be investing in him. And like I compared him with Linus, if you have the choice between Linus or Ross, go Ross. Because Ross is just so much cheaper. But if you've already invested in Linus, finish Linus. It really comes down to which one you like most in most cases. But Ross does not cost grails, and 3 to 4 star unit, especially in the green pool, is very easy to pull. So, yeah. Let's move on to E1. Now, E1 is a bit of a strange case. He actually showed us that trainee unit only get 4 points of stats now, as casters should have 162 BST now, but he has 166 because he's a trainee, similar to Ross and Amelia. And 166 BST with a super boon in attack and def. This is one of the first red mage to have a good bulk. And I fucking love it. E1 is actually really good, despite the fact that he's one of the characters no one likes in Sacred Stones, which is honestly completely warranted. If you think Cyril is annoying, E1 is the worst. He's just very whiny, and the only reason I can really just be, okay, that's fine, it's because Tethys exists. Tethys is his big sis, so, you know. But, moving on. His kit, garbage. I'm gonna be honest, if you're going to be using him, you're not going to use any of these skills except maybe Sabotage Speed, and even then, you'll typically want to change it for a more offensive option, because he is a fantastic attacking unit. This is the last Serpent tome that we needed. Great, now we can actually move on to good tomes like the Fox tomes. Rather Fox is insane. I cannot wait to get Blar Fox or Grand Fox. I might even consider to plus 10 Lind when she comes back on her weekly banner if we get Blar Fox. Because Blar Fox on Lind will allow her to hit a bit over 40 def and res. So yeah, let that sink in. With that said, let's talk about the comparison. Now, if you're talking about Red Mage, there's really only 2 characters that come to mind. Everyone else are kind of just mediocre. No offense to people who like stuff like Lion or Canis, I guess. But in reality, Hubert is by far the de facto best stat line a Red Mage had before it won. That's saying a lot considering Hubert had 39-32. But yes, I do consider the fact that E1 is typically better at everything but the Blade Tome set, I think. I think Hubert does that a bit better than E1. But that's just because he has more attack and the fact that you don't need a million speed to really work as a unit. Celica, however, is a bit of an anomaly. Her weapon essentially provides her 12 attack and speed. It's super easy to set up with Fury. So, I mean, if you have Fury plus that weapon after your first fight, you'll typically have 15 extra attack and speed. That's just stupid. Absolutely stupid. In other words, you're basically looking at 61 attack, 48 speed unmerged with just neutral attack and speed. So yeah, if you're talking about just pure offense, there's not a single unit that beats Celica. Because like I said, if you're comparing just the attack stat, you have to compare the Brazen and the fact that you get 5 attack and speed with Ragnarok. So even if you use Radar Fox, okay, say Radar Fox on Hubert, you basically have 43 attack, yeah? Well, Celica here would have 2 more might because Ragnarok has 2 more might. 5 more attack because, you know, attack def on Ragnarok. and then Brazen attack speed, you're looking at 46 base attack, whereas Hubert would be at 43. That gives you an idea, like, just the disparity in attack is already 3 points, and she has more speed, more def, almost the same health, a bit less res. Like, it's insane. Celica is insane. If you really like the character, I would strongly recommend saving your orbs to +10 her, because I do not see her being beaten anytime soon. But that's purely on offense. If you're talking about a more generalist unit, E1 completely has her beat, because of his bulk. 35 res with a basically 27 def is nuts. You can do so much with that. Like, for example, just random like this. Def plus, Owl Tome refined to def, so you're at 30 def and 35 res. Attack def bond, you're at 35 def, 35 res. With an Owl Tome. With buffs, you're at 41, 41. The Owl Tome can put, let's consider 2 people, you're already at 45 def and res. It's insane how much you can use the stat line. But enough of this, let's talk about builds. The first set is a Radar Fox set, of course, because Radar Fox is very, very strong. And honestly, another thing you can run instead of Attack Smoke would be just Rest Ploy if you just want more damage, or Attack Ploy if you want just to be able to just get that damage, get that bulk before you get the fight. Here you see I use 30 Blow. However, this is not the ideal seal. The ideal seal would be Mirror Strike. It's not out yet, but it's definitely coming. So, with that said, if you add Mirror Strike, you'd be looking at 50 defense and 49 res. With Radar Fox in action, you're basically looking at 54 defense and 54 def and 53 res. That's insane. That's super bulky. And then you add the fact that because of Radar Fox, your speed jumps up to 47. Because of Mirror Strike, when that becomes a seal, Sturdy Impact, and Radar Fox, your attack becomes 73. You have 73-47 offensively. With 54 def, 53 res. This is why I say the Radar Fox line, the Fox lineup of tomes are actually a really strong lineup of tomes. I really cannot wait for Blar Fox, Ground Fox to be added to the pool. Unlike the Serpent tome, they actually might see some use because they are very good tomes. Next up is the Radar Owl set. As I mentioned it earlier, it is definitely worth mentioning because with Owl Tome, refined to def, with attack def bond, you're already at 45 def res. With 2 people, you're at 49 def and res at +10. If you're unmerged, it's 45 def and res. Because you have 2 people next to you, your speed hit at 47. It's just, in general, it's really good. Now, on lower merges, both of these sets typically will want to either have a unit supporting them with drive speed, or you go with a speed refine instead of the def refine, or go speed plus, depending on the situation. Still, I do think it would be better to go with drive speed, because anyway you're going to have someone next to you. And make that drive speed unit the ally support of E1, that way he has the full 4 speed he needs. This gives a lot of options, and in general opens up E1 to having a lot of options, because that 4 speed does all the difference. On high merges, you won't even need it anymore. You'll be just able to run, say, drive attack instead. But yeah, just overall a absolute monster of a unit. This is the kind of thing I really want to do with Julia, honestly. And frankly, I think I could do something similar. But I would have to wait for Blar Fox for that. There are so much things I would want to try in this game, but we just have to wait for certain skills to come out. It's insane. Moving on to the second set, this is obviously just Blade Tome. As I said, very normal. If you just want to have a bit more bulk compared to Hubert, he's a bit better. However, Hubert has the overall better damage potential. Still, what you're looking at here is 41 def and 49 res on top of 92 attack. With Sturdy Blow, that's 96 attack. And with Rest Ploy, you're basically at 101 attack if you ploy the enemy. And unlike Hubert, he can ploy. This is huge. Because the ploy can actually mean that he does more damage than Hubert, which is the one thing Hubert really has over him. So yeah. Moving on, next up is his sister, Tethys. Now, Tethys is probably going to be our demote, and I'm so glad she is. A lot of people have dismissed her stat line as being not great, and those people are fools. That stat line is insanely good in general if you just want to have a dancer that can protect herself. And she has a super boon in defense. I have two sets that are meant to be more of an offensive set on her, but frankly, you should not use those. If you're going to use those, use them with Soph. Okay? No one else. There's no reason to use Legold. There's no reason to use any dagger unit but Soph nowadays. At least as a pure offensive unit, especially considering I'm switching the weapon used in these sets. Anyway, this is the comparison. Not much of a comparison when you have 7 more def and 6 more res than the comparison, as well as 4 more health. But you know, I guess she has 1 more attack. Yeah. The only other comparison would be Dancing Xander. But the thing with Dancing Xander is he has an attack stat unlike Tethys. He has a def stat, which is better than Tethys. No speed stat, which Tethys is like twice the speed he has, almost. And over twice the res as Xander. They are like impossible to compare as a result. But yeah, overall, Tethys is really strong. She has 157 BST. I was expecting them to give her 156 BST with a potential super boon that would have locked her options if you used her in Arena. But no, 157 BST. And if she demotes, this means a unit that scores a 160 BST in Arena has been added to the pool. I want you to take a moment to realize this. This means that a free-to-play dancer that does not need a dual skill will be added to the pool as a 4 to 5 star unit that actually scores, like, I think, no, actually, she does score better than even Raisin. That's kind of nuts. I guess it's not that important because Arena is not as important anymore, though I genuinely disagree with that fact. A lot of people seem to think Arena is useless, but I like my 13k feathers a week. I like my 50 dragon flowers a week. I like my 5 orbs a week. It's more than Aether raids give you, because the thing with Aether raids is it either gives you dragon flowers and you have to pray it's actually useful, which is also a problem with a Legion's battle, but moving on. Or you have to have a Grail project. If you're done with your Grails, you get nothing until a unit gets added that's good, which is pure luck. Like Conrad was a complete fluke. If it wasn't for Conrad like this, we would be like on a dry streak of like almost a year at this point of not getting a good, like really good unit. And that's just dumb. It's either Tempest Trial, which no one are going to invest in it unless they're powerhouses like Elliewood, or they're GHB, which are fan favorite but terrible units. Like, I'm sorry, man, but no. It just doesn't really work too good. But that's just me. Moving on to our builds now. The set on the left is just for pure bulk. Like I said, her stat line is insane. 51 def and 50 res is insane. That said, you would lose a ploy slot running this. That said, either way, 46 def, 50 res is quite decent. Oh, and for like the 2 people that actually say, oh, but you won't be able to kill anything with this, that's kind of the goal, in case you don't know. This is more so almost an arena set if it wasn't for the fact that Fortress Def scores like absolute garbage. In case you don't know, it scores for 160 SP, which typically means you lose an entire SP bin using this skill. So that's kind of a problem. But even if you don't run it and you run, say, another ploy or tactics, that's another thing in general. Outside of Olivia and to some extent Raisin, there's not a whole lot of dancers that can work as a ployer and a tactic user, but Tethys is one of them. Other than that, though, the fact that her attack is so low is fantastic for Arena because you don't want to kill units with your dancer. However, -6 across the board with Smoke Dagger for your bonus unit is huge. For anything except Idun, this will be almost a game changer for your bonus unit. It just makes it so much easier, and she can take a hit fairly easily as well. Though keep in mind that ideally, if you're going to do something like that, you want to have a rally user that has a ruse skill, which means you have to have an infantry or horse unit, because ruse skill can only be used by those 2 movement type. Because then you can guard, which is good because of all of the extra cooldown that the enemy may get on enemy phase. Also to make so that your bonus unit doesn't end up having to fight a wall that instant procs bonfire, for example. But I digress. Overall, she's just a fantastic addition. The set on the right is if you really want to maximize her score. Again, 43 def, 47 res. Very, very good bulk. And that's all I have to say. Pumpkin in a box is the Fury Dagger, by the way, in case you don't know. It's just to essentially ensure that she doesn't die as easily. It also improves her speed so she doesn't get doubled easily. It gives her the def and res to take hits easily. And a bit of attack, I guess, which doesn't really matter. At the point she is, she's not going to be killing many things, which is fantastic. Moving on to the more aggressive set. These sets, by the way, as I said before, are so much better on Soph. It's not even funny, because Soph has an extra 9 attack. So there's that. Red Hot Ducks, by the way, works with AoEs. If you get a 7 damage because of your speed compared to the enemy, that is 7 damage on the AoE, 7 damage per hit. And Flashing Blade works the same. The 5 damage that it provides to you, also added to AoEs. So let's say we're using Soph here. I guess this is almost a Soph showcase here, but you'd have 63 attack. If you fight someone with, say, 50 def, okay? 13 difference, yeah? That would do 19 damage plus 12 true damage from Red Hot Ducks and Flashing Blade, because units with 50 def typically don't have enough speed. So that's already 31 damage on the AoE itself, which typically will break apart even Wary Fighter on, say, Surtur. That's kind of ridiculous, which means you'll be able to double right after, which again, you'll be getting 12 extra damage on both the first and second hit because of Flashing Blade and Red Hot Ducks. So your 13 damage is suddenly transformed into 25 times 2 with the 32 damage at the start. I think you can get the idea, or 31 damage at the start, my bad. I think you can get the idea of how insane this gets. And you have Def Ploy, and you have the rest to even ploy Surtur semi-reliably. If you give her enough flowers that she gets res, you'll ploy even a fully dragon-flowered Surtur. That gives you an idea just how stupid Tethys can be. And Special Spiral will just ensure that you keep proccing Blazing Wind, unless the enemy has something like a guard effect. But, you know, that's just how it is. There's nothing you can really do to change this. The second set is more just a Barb Shuriken with Bonfire set. It's a 2 cooldown, so you attack, get hit, and then proc. Very simple stuff. With, of course, 46 def and 47 res, as well as 65 attack because of the lull and the sturdy blow as well as sturdy impact. But yeah, like I said, these sets here are better on Soph. So moving on to Ephraim. As much as I dislike Ephraim, he's basically the best unit of the banner. But before we even start about this, I want to showcase something, because a lot of people don't realize just how boring this Ephraim is. Like, they act as if the stat line is something new. What if I showed you this? Want to know another part about this that's really silly? What does Edelgard's weapon do? Guarantee a follow-up. Oh, I feel like I've seen this one before. Oh yeah, Ephraim has a similar effect. The difference though is that Edelgard has a cooldown -1 in her weapon. Cooldown -1 is way superior to being effective against dead content like horses and armors. Though that might be better over time if they decide to finally buff horses and, of course, buff armored units. But considering they clearly have no clue what they even want at this point for armored unit to be, I don't think this is going to happen. Anyway, moving back to his kit. Low attack def getting another unit in the pool makes me so glad, because it means I don't have to kill Dimitri, which is one of the best Lord of the series, but instead I will get to kill Ephraim, one of the worst Lord of the series, so that's great. Other than that, Heavy Blade 4 is very awkward. Genuinely, it's almost terrible. There are a few units that comes to mind that can actually use it, like Eliwood, Sirius, Quan. I guess to some extent you could also say, what's his face? Siegbert. But other than that, it's very iffy. It works for him, it does, but the typical person prefers Flashing Blade 4 if they're going to go for a heavy set. That said, Edelgard can also quite use it. And she uses it better, by the way, because she can actually use Gale Force without, like, relying on Time Pulse to function. Yeah, this is real. You have to use Time Pulse with this unit to use Gale Force properly with Heavy Blade. At least if you run Desperation or another, well, lesser known skill, but we'll get to that. If you've seen my review of Edelgard, most of these sets will not be too surprising to you, because again, they're basically the same unit. Now, Regan Leaf, effective against dead content. Moving on, grants attack +3. If unit's attack is higher than foe's attack, or extra movement granted by another skill is active on unit. Alright, so one thing I have to say about this. This guy has 58 base attack. Why is there like even a second condition to fulfill for the weapon? It's just so iffy, it doesn't work. It's just very useless. Oh look, if I have movement +1 from like Azura or my own duo skill, I can then actually get my follow-up. Or maybe just realize that there's not a whole lot of unit that can have 63 attack or 64 attack or more rather. Or actually even 67 attack or more unbuffed, because if you consider buffs, these are negated by low attack def. Again, it's just not happening. This extra like layer of, oh, I can also have this as a possibility, is just redundant. Anyway, you get a follow-up for it. Cool. It's basically Edelgard, but the attack +3 is swish. The cooldown -1 is replaced by attack +3. And the condition is kind of worse. In some aspect, it is a bit better because you can use bond sets. Other than that, though, it's not great. I don't understand Draconic Aura either. You do 17 damage with Draconic Aura. Unbuffed. You do 18 with Bonfire. If you consider buffs, it's even worse. You do 19 with Draconic Aura, and you do 21 with Bonfire. There's literally no reason for Draconic Aura to be in his base kit, but whatever. I'm just basically nitpicking at this point. Anyway, let's talk about comparison. He's basically Berkut with a speed stat. That's the best way I can really describe him, and with also a bit more attack. I will say, however, Nyla is a really strong comparison here. You'll realize one thing, and that's the fact that Ephraim is... Well, if you're going to be blue like this, you typically need to have one of two things. Enough speed to block follow-ups, or an effect that blocks follow-ups for you. Ephraim has none of the above. So, if you compare him to Nyla, it gets to a stupid extent. Now, I know what a few people will say. Nyla only has 47 attack with her weapon, while he has 58 attack. What is even the point you're trying to bring up? Well, first off, that is kind of incorrect. Yes, Nyla has 47 attack. Okay. However, for most of the best set that you want to get on Ephraim, you need to go speed plus to prevent follow-ups. Whereas Nyla can go attack plus. So already there you're at 50 versus 58. Then you add the fact that Nyla's weapon is utterly busted. She has the best weapon of any blue unit of this game. As a matter of fact, I would say she might even be a strong contender for the strongest weapon of the game. So, let me list the effect. This is if she's transformed, okay? Her weapon is literally Nameless Blade, which is busted beyond belief. So already there, that's off to a good start. Second, you had the fact that, let's just say that for some reason you have problem with your speed. Or your damage. Which attack might be kind of an issue. For every ally she has within 2 space, she gets 2 attack and speed each for a maximum of 6 attack and speed. It is super easy to set up your team to at least give her 4 attack and speed. So 54 attack compared to 58 attack. Do you see just how much closer it suddenly got? Oh, and another thing, most of our main sets revolve around using Moonbow, which is at 1 cooldown, which means that with Wrath you keep proccing it every hit. This is also important, because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that's another 10 damage per hit added to her. So you might as well compare 64 attack to 58 attack. Oh, and she has the speed to match. Do you see how insane she can get? The one thing she has is the fact that she has to be transformed to get to this effect. And that's a fair point. Though if you use someone like Leon or Rayson as a dancer with tactics, typically that's not even a problem. So the one thing... So at that point they have basically the same health. She's better offensively, which is the main thing Ephraim has. Then you go with the bulk. And yes, the bulk is actually a fair point. Because the bulk is better than Nyla. That's kind of just a fact. That said, the fact that Nyla blocks follow-ups very easily, especially on low merges, makes Nyla better. I'm hoping that the distant counter banner at the middle of the month is Nyla so I can get the last 2 copy of mine, but we'll see about that, I suppose. But yeah, I think you get where I'm coming from here. It's just really insane how strong Nyla can be, and Ephraim is still a solid unit, don't get me wrong, But if he was red, like if it was Leon in the front trying to learn to use the lance for the lance or like a sword for something that's a bit less heavy, that could have been better. With like Ephraim trying to guide him or Erica, that could have actually worked a lot better for him. Another problem I have with Ephraim is the fact that he won't stay in the pool. Now this is worth mentioning because if you do not plus 10 him on this banner, which I don't think most people will be able to do, especially considering his duo effect is terrible. That's actually something I forgot to mention, but his duo effect is just giving extra movement to a class that already gets a skill to do that. That's not smart. And then to infantry units, which Azura can just do and refresh every turn. Now, this would be fine if the range of the skill was not bad, but I believe it's within 2 space of the hero, or maybe within 3 space. Either way, it's too little, to a point where you can't even set up like your team to attack from multiple points in AR, which is like the main mode it's really done for. Because, honestly, you don't really use the other duo skill otherwise. So, But, like, it just ends up being a fucking gambit. That's the best way to put it. It's like you had the strike gambit, but you don't get, like, double movement. You get +1. It's utterly underwhelming, and I'm glad it is. Though, honestly, even if it was broken, it would not hurt anyone. It would hurt your defense in Arena and AR, and that's it. Which is a massive who cares. I don't care about losing 1 or 2 grails a week. As long as the enemy is not able to use this effect, I am A-okay with it. Just like I would be completely fine with Azura if her effect of giving extra movement was only applicable in the player's end. You know, similar to what Leaf's weapon did. So yeah, moving on. Overall, he doesn't stay in the pool. He's basically a seasonal hero on a non-seasonal banner. And this is stupid. I don't mind duo heroes. I think they're smart if, you know, we finally get good characters. Like, for example, a duo unit of like... like, for example, for Leon, how about making Leon the lead unit instead of giving Ephraim number 5? I don't know about you, but that would be a lot more interesting. I also didn't care about Hector number 5. And that would have been, what, Lilina number 4? Yeah. But, like, if we get something like duo Pent and Louise, alright, that's cool. They kind of just go hand in hand, so not releasing them together is kind of silly. So, if you just don't have a spot in the banner for Pent, this is a good other choice you can do. Another thing you can do is like Bride Surgery and Groom Sigurd. That's fantastic. You can do so many good options with this, and I like that quite a bit. It's just the fact that they don't stay in the banner, and in the pool, sorry. And the problem with that is you don't even know when they'll come back. Will they come back at this very same time of the year next year? Will they come back only on Legendary Hero banners? Will they come back in the midway of the year banners where they're going to do a second Legendary banner, but for pair-up units? We don't know. Nobody knows. And that's kind of the problem. But yeah, moving on to builds. The first sets, the first sets are water sweep sets. Now, in case you don't know, Regan Leaf or any weapon that gives you an extra follow-up has this very strange, what's the word? Interaction, there we go, with sweep skills. If you have an automatic follow-up, you can do a follow-up through the sweep skill if you have enough speed to beat your enemy. Essentially, it removes the fact that you can't hit twice. as long as you have more speed than your enemy, you are going to double them. So for something like a huge damage stick like Ephraim, this is fantastic, and also allows him with Heavy Blade to proc Bonfire in every fight. This is very good because it's an extra, well, 23 damage. This is really good to kill whatever enemy you have to deal with. The second set is a Gelfor set with Sweep set. Of course, you need Time Pulse for this one to even function, and another note is Speed Res Solo. It's not a thing yet. But if it was a thing, Speed Res Solo would be the ideal A slot here, because you'd be sitting at 47 def and 41 res. It's better mixed bulk, so you'd be able to do this against dragons as well. So, yeah. Other than that, moving on to the second set of Ephraim. These are very self-explanatory, so I'm not going to be spending too much time on it. Water Sweep is to deal with dragons, and why you would run Speed Res Solo with Water Sweep is so you can have an enemy phase if that's needed. Moving on. Now, these sets, I think you know what they are. They're basically very similar to the sets I've showcased with, I was going to say Boyd. Ross. Boyd is like an adult Ross in looks. Changed my mind. But yeah, this is very similar to what I showcase with Ross. This essentially allows you to have 48 def and 50 res with 47 speed, as well as 78 attack. With Wrath and Ruptured Sky, you'd be able to just proc Ruptured Sky with Slaying Lance and Wrath at the start of every turn, the second you're under 75% HP. And this encounter is also there because, in case you don't know about how Wrath functions, the way it calculates if you have, if you know, Ruptured Sky will get an extra 10 damage, is when the spec is done. In other words, say you have, oh, I don't know, say you have 51 HP at the start, and your HP gets knocked down to 30 mid-fight, like you get hit for 21 damage, then you proc Ruptured Sky will do an extra 10 damage. Simple as that. And Ruptured Sky is also a good way to get around the fact that he has low res, in some cases, mostly dragons. You'll be able to just one-shot them, which is quite good. I don't know why I have Dragon Flowers here. I think I was looking at something. The Dragon Flowers are completely unneeded, okay? They really are not needed, so don't worry too much about it. Although I will say, if you can get the Dragon Flowers for that extra 1 point of speed, it's very good. This set, however, is not really good on low merges, so do keep that in mind. Because on low merges, your speed is just too low, unless you're on drive speed, but that can be very iffy if you're the one on initiation. Though typically you'll be one-shotting anyway, so I guess there's that. The effective against armor is actually kind of useful here. Even if you have to deal with a green, you can actually one-shot them through Wrath, Ruptured Sky, which is quite a huge deal. Killing Surtur with a blue, quite good. And that's one of the things Nyla cannot do. So that's good. The problem is, with a Slaying Lance you don't get that effect. But you need Slaying Lance for the speed, so it's kind of iffy. It really comes down to the situation, I suppose. Still, fantastic unit. Just a bad character for the unit, I feel like. And you know the worst part? I'm pretty sure that the way IS sees this, oh, well, in that duo unit, we managed to sell Ephraim, because everyone loves Ephraim, but we also gave an ult to Leon. So now people can complain that Leon is not, you know, with an ult yet. And that's just scummy. But, oh well, that's just the way I look at it. In conclusion, this banner outside of Garrick is very good. Extremely good. Ross is a must-have At least get him. At least get him to like 5-star. And if you find him good, then 5-star plus denim. He is a fantastic unit to invest in. You honestly will not be disappointed. And with that said, I think that's all I had to say here. As per usual, I hope you have a nice one, everyone. I'll be seeing you all in the comments, or on Discord, or both. Have a good day.